Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We appreciate you all joining us today to learn about Microsoft Sway. For those of you that haven't heard of it before, Sway is a tool that can be used to quickly and easily design presentations and documents. It's an excellent way to make your reports more visually appealing, training documents more interactive, and marketing presentations easier to assemble. By now, most of you know John and Dan from KnowledgeWave. For any of you not familiar with them, KnowledgeWave is a group that offers live and on-demand Microsoft 365 training, and VirtualIT has partnered with them to bring you these introductions to some of the underused tools that Microsoft has to offer. We have plenty to go over today, so I'm not going to get too far into this. I think I'm going to kick it right over to John and let him take us through an introduction to Microsoft Sway.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. I like what you said. It's kind of funny to say. It is one of those underutilized apps. It's been around for a while, actually, and some people are using it really successfully. I'll talk about all sorts of different ways that you can use it. But it's there, and I just don't think everybody even realizes it. So today, we're going to do an introduction to Sway. You can engage, present, impress. It's like a video kind of. It's a mix of things, which is really cool. It's a dynamic way to present things. There's a difference, though. So we've got some things to talk about, seeing what the distinction is, and just another way to present. And it's a great way to create something instead of printing it or creating a PDF. Maybe you have an infographic. It's kind of boring. You can bring it into Sway, and it actually has a lot of built-in tools, this cool thing called Remix. So you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be a designer. You can make a really cool Sway. And there are lots of templates. So I'm excited to talk about this. Today's an introduction. Hopefully, if you'd like to or able to, you can follow along in your own environment. I'll show you how we can do that. Okay. We have an introduction, and I'm going to just go into what Sway is. And actually, the way that we're presenting this today, we're going to talk about Sway in a Sway called How to Sway. And it is one of the default templates. So you'll be able to actually access it if you'd like to and follow along exactly with me, which I think will be really helpful, because then we can go in and you can edit. And even at the end, if you'd like to, you can share with the others. We do have a question panel available. Please feel free to ask questions. Dan St. Hilaire is here. I'm here. We've got a lot of people here who can support and help. So if you've got questions or you want ideas or just want to talk about it, we're available for that too. So we'll talk about what Sway is. How does it differ from PowerPoint? We'll talk about getting started in the way of getting around. It's had some updates recently. So if you've used Sway previously, I think you'll be excited about some of the newer changes with the interface and navigation. It actually makes it easier. So we'll talk about how to create a Sway, how to save it, how to share it. It would be very cool if by the end of this you had some sort of a Sway or presentation that you could even save as a template. It's that easy to do. We'll also talk about how you can take existing documents like a PowerPoint or even another file and import it into Sway, and it'll create it for you. You can then go in and make some tweaks, some adjustments, and there are lots of different types of cards and things that we can use in Sway to make it a little bit more engaging and exciting. So the design part, you don't have to be a designer. You can use built-in designs. Again, this thing called Remix. You can add video. You can add images. One recent change, they have to be online already. So it might be something that's on SharePoint or OneDrive or even YouTube. Excuse me. I apologize. I muted location at the beginning. Because what we're going to do is actually go into Sway so that we can click around in this template. So what I suggest doing, I'm going to start from the very beginning, and we'll explore what Sway is and the navigation, all while we're working with one and creating one. So we'll be able to achieve all the things in the agenda with this. I recommend going to Microsoft365.com. And if you go there, you just want to make sure you're signed in. This will need to be your work account or school account. So I have this practice one. So So there I am, signed in, not the personal one. It's got to be for work or school. I'm landing on the Microsoft 365 homepage. It's a great place to start. In fact, you can see I opened up a bunch of sways earlier, just checking them out, getting things ready, and they all showed up here in my quick access as recent. So it's really easy to get back to them. They show up here, and you can also place them on your calendar. You can favorite them. You can even tag them. Maybe it's a marketing sway. It's kind of like a hashtag. So these are Microsoft 365 features, but we're seeing Sway as a file. Now, Sway is accessed through a browser, though, or your phone. And the coolest thing about Sway is that it dynamically adjusts for the screen size. If you're creating a PowerPoint, I'll give you an example. I was using PowerPoint to create some TikToks. Well, guess what? TikToks are typically up and down, not side to side. So there's a lot of zooming and things. With Sway, we don't have to worry about format as much. So that's one of the big differences between PowerPoint and Sway. PowerPoint is more like a finished piece of art, where Sway is more like folk art. It's more dynamic, it's quick and exciting. Not that PowerPoint isn't, but here on this other tab, I've accessed Sway. You can also go to sway.cloud.microsoft. That's the new website to access it. That's one way. And then if you type in /my, that will take you right to my Sways. The other way is just clicking on the app launcher, and you're going to see Sway right there. If you don't, you can click on more apps, and you may see it listed here. And you can also search for it. So there it is. Create interactive ports and presentations. So once we go, we can actually click, and it's going to bring us here. I mentioned this new update. New video and audio uploads have been discontinued since June of 2024. So you might see that Sway supports embedded video and audio only, and you can click here if you want to learn more. So we may see this banner pop up. Sorry about that. I can't seem to disable it, but it's very welcoming. Welcome to Sway. Anytime you click on the word Sway up here, wherever you are, it's going to take you to My Sways, and then you'll see these tabs. So that's just navigation-wise. Also for navigation, if you click on the app launcher, it's going to bring you back to Microsoft 365. And from there, you can use this app launcher. That's just how that is set up. So here we go. sway.cloud.microsoft/my. So when we're doing this, and before we kind of jump into it, what is Sway? It's dynamic presentation. Think of it like a storytelling tool. You'll see what I mean as we go through some of these. It's web-based, so it is responsive. So it doesn't matter if you're on your iPad or your phone or your widescreen TV. It's going to adapt and look good no matter what. That makes it user-friendly. So people don't even know or need to know how to start a PowerPoint presentation or even start the video or even create one. It's all very easy. It walks you through. There are templates and themes that are pre-designed. That means things can be consistent. You can choose different colors and fonts. It's interesting how it does it, though, because you make more broad, general decisions, and then it takes care of everything for you, which I think is really cool. Multimedia integration. You can add lots of different things to it. Of course, images and videos, you'll see what I mean. There's some choices in there that make it kind of cool. You also get to see analytics, and it also is very accessible to pretty much anyone. It is meeting standards. We track the engagement. So if people aren't looking at your Sway, and maybe it's a newsletter and you really need them to, you can look at the analytics. It tells you a lot about it and how people are interacting with it. There are also some really cool export options. You can export any Sway as a PDF, a Word, or you can just keep it on the web. So keeping it on the web is great. Sometimes, that's going to be housed by Microsoft. If things change in your tenant, you change jobs or something like that, you're going to lose that Sway. So sometimes it's a good idea, if you create one and you love it, create a template from it, or export it. So when you export it, you can have a PDF, a Word document, or even a PowerPoint from the Sway. So you can go both ways, which I like. It's part of what used to be called Office 365, which is Microsoft 365. We're going to see Sway embedded. If you're sharing it with other people, you can be there at the same time. So it's a file, but it's stored on the web. A little bit different than normal. And we can share different types of links. We can control access, privacy. So if we want to send out a newsletter, we can decide who sees it, for how long, can they edit or not. And then, I don't know if this has ever happened for you. It's happened to me. Send something out on a newsletter. The communication changed or is wrong. There's an error. You can't exactly pull those all out of people's mailboxes as paper like we used to. With this, we can make a change in one place, and then anybody who has that link is going to be able to see that update, which is great. That means you have more control, but it also looks a lot cooler. Everybody's going to get the same message. So what can you make with Sway? To think about this, you could do annual reports. This could be a cool way to do that. Or a status update on a project. You can do different presentations, basic things. It could be new employee orientations. It could be a presentation on outer space. It could be anything. You can create newsletters. I like this idea because I could glance at it on my phone or my desk. And also just creating stories. This could also be things like SOPs, or you're trying to teach people at work how to fill out a form, a certain document. You could create a Sway for that and then actually have it link out to the document itself, and it can walk them through. It's a lot more engaging. So I mentioned let's try it out, but a very long list here, which you can actually go back to your sway.cloud.microsoft area, and we're going to talk about the navigation. We're circling back here. So here there are really 3 different ways to get started right on the top. We can create a new Sway, and that's going to start just blank. And sometimes this is great if you just want to get ideas down, but if you want to create something quickly, have it look good, get started right away, you can start from a topic. I think that's great. So I can give this a try. Click on the star, start from topic, and it uses Wikipedia to create an outline that you can then use for your Sway. And I'm going to create an outline. And it says, do you mean one of these? Weight training, leadership training, strength, personal training, boxing training. So that's an example of being a little bit too broad. Recommendation is going to be really specific. So I can say from here, another use might be employee. I'm just going to do that. Create outline and click. Able to do that. If not, definitely try it later. So here we go. We just basically created a Sway by typing in, and it used Wikipedia. You don't have to have Copilot or anything for that. And it pulled in all sorts of information that could just get me started. It gives ideas and creates some scrolling down. You can certainly type in anything you want. I mean, this could be a team, their favorite meme. You can put a lot of content that's... So what we're seeing here, just we're kind of doing navigation, but also getting started. On the top left, we can see storyline. That allows us to add content. That's where when you click, you get all sorts of different tabbed choices popping out. There's not really, we don't have a lot of images in here. We can add all these. But this is the storyline view. And we'll certainly circle back to this because we're going to have a few different Sways to check out. Here on the top left, next to storyline is design. The design, this one's very plain, by the way. They get way more exciting. We're just starting. I can use the wheel on my mouse and scroll through, and this one is set up to go horizontally. I can also use the arrows, and it'll go one screen at a time. Down on the bottom right are the arrows, and then to the left of that there's a navigation button, and that is going to give us almost like chapters. So anybody can, when they're viewing this way, can click through these chapters, read it in a few different ways. They also get to interact with and design. And on the top right, we see play, the end of the webinar, because it's things like saving it as a template or printing it. different settings and things. But that's where it lives. 3 dots, that's a discover more, like the little overflow. Sharing, and when you hit play, this is what they'll actually see. Now, again, this one is not that exciting, but it was cool to get started right away with the blank one. So what I'm going to do is close that. If you click on Sway, it's going to bring you back. You can click on the word Sway up here. It's going to bring you back. So we did create new there. The other one, start from topic. That's what it jumped us to. We had that choice. And then start from document. If you start from document, you can, like this, and you could look through different have. They could be images. They could just be a paragraph. Here, we'll do this one. Sway example. That's it. It does take a moment. But everything that I have in that PowerPoint, while that's doing its thing, I'm going to show you. What the Sway example is. This is the PowerPoint that I just uploaded. It's a project update, and this is just fictional, but this is a presentation. It's 6 slides. Like, this isn't that exciting. We want to make it a Sway. Let's make it a little bit more engaging. So I just wanted to show you the PowerPoint version of it. There we go. There we go. That took maybe a minute and a half, which is quick unless you're waiting on a webinar. So thanks for waiting. This one is live. I have a few set up already that we'll check out too. But this is great. We've got project update. We go right to the storyline section. We have different choices here, which we'll go through, but we have an overview of the status. We have our introduction. Basically, it took the slides and did what it thinks would be good. I mean, certainly that was a fictional slide deck, but if you bring in other types of documents, maybe a safety orientation or employee onboarding, and bring it into Sway, it does make it a lot more exciting. I know people do it for like safety, fresher trainings, things like that. If you have to do those yearly things, quarterly things, this can be a quick, easy way because you just give people the link and they can access it on their browser. Now, we're still in the design phase, and this is the very beginning. So it's, again, we start seeing images and these are different cards, but this is storyline. I'm going to click on design just to show you. This is more, it's like the design mode, the design tab, more of what it's going to look like when people actually interact with it. And we can scroll down like that. It basically took the slides and the images. So we've got storyline for the creating of it and manipulating the cards. We have design to take a peek at it and then make other decisions. Like, how are people gonna, like, maybe we should create some chapters or something because this isn't working yet. You know, this is nice to be able to take a look at everything. But the other one on the top right is play. If you hit play, that's going to give you exactly what they see. So we see some animations. This one, notice, is going vertically. Previously, it was horizontally. One that's already there as a template, because then we can interact with it a little bit more, see some richer content. So that's getting started. Create new, start from topic, start from a document. Now, the next section down, we see My Sways. These are edited. These are ones I've worked on. We have ones that I've viewed here in this tab. How to sway, that's what we're going to look at mostly today. And here's an example, Northwest Aquarium Annual Report. This is one that Dan made, which I'm going to show in a minute, which I think is really cool. A lot of people do them for food, for recipes, for restaurants, menus, specials, things like that. In fact, we don't see paper menus that much anymore. Here, I made a birthday sway for my wife, actually, and I put the concert tickets and things in a video, which was kind of cool. And this is an example of the analytics. So it's been viewed 10 times, 2 minutes. This is pretty in-depth, and we can do even more. And deleted, this is like our recycle bin. This is where we can bring them back, we can restore them, or we can decide to start from a template. So I'm going to click back to edited and show you around a little bit. We see previews of some of the sways that I've been working on. And this one's project update, which we saw. Onboarding, how to prompt like a pro. This is a co-pilot one that I was working with. And if you click on the 3 dots, you get just icons. So it's good to hover over them because then you'll get a screen tip. This tells us play your sway, see how it looks to others before you share it. Here, that's how you share with the link. With this, that means you can make a copy of that sway and reuse it, maybe for a different department, for example, and you can also delete it. So pretty intuitive. In order to work with it, you just have to click and it's going to immediately give you the choices. If you click on it, it's going to launch it and bring you right to Storyline. What I did with this one, this is an example of importing a document again. So this was an outline. So what it did, this is me showing, it's not perfect, because it carried over the outline numbers and formats. So what would happen, I don't love that. Some people might, but I would probably go in and remove those. My recommendation is if you're going to import a file, work on that file to make it kind of separated. If it's a Word document, use styles, like headings. Make sure you use paragraphs. That's going to be easier for Sway to understand. It makes a big difference. And you can test them out if you want. Try a few different things. All right, I'm going to go back to Sway. Just click on the word Sway. So these are some of my edited ones. Now, we also have Start from Template. Here's a recipe one that I made a template, and then now I can reuse it. So if you find a sway anywhere, even in any of these templates or examples, you can reuse it as much as you want. And you can share it with others. You can make it your own. I love that. I love how flexible it is. We have things like an internal newsletter, external newsletter. Sways about how to do things. Now, it doesn't have to be food. It could be, steps for rebooting the entire system or other required trainings, things like that. Business presentation, status update, and there's an arrow on the side that you can navigate through and just kind of scroll through. There are lots of different diverse choices, and don't get caught up on the name of it, really, like resume artist or report vacation story. This could be like work retreat. You could really change these as much as you want. And of course, they throw in the classic resume. But this is awesome. This gives a lot of great ideas, and then you can kind of take it and run. There are also featured sways. So templates are pretty cookie cutter. They're good. They've got some content. And then on the bottom, we have featured sways. So this could be, and these are fictional too, but how to sway. That's the one we're going to work in. But check this out. Maybe a museum might have a sway and then create a QR code. People can access it really easily. Maybe it's just about red pandas or how, a study, the future of solar. These are ways to express thoughts and ideas and share things as well. So I had done the Northwest Aquarium annual report before. I'm going to click on that. And you can certainly do that too. And here it is. This brings us right to the sway. So I can scroll. This has a lot of text, but that's what its intention was. This could have been a document that was several pages thick, but we have things like signatures and links. This gives us all sorts of information that we can just scroll around with. So there's a lot, and I'm going to use the slider bar just to show you. This one's big. All sorts of information. So maybe I don't want to scroll up and down. It's hard to look at, especially on a webinar. On the bottom right, we have navigate to different areas. If I click that, we get the chapters. This is awesome because I can click and it'll go right to that section. So I just want to look at the financials. Click, it'll bring me. I like that. Visitor information. It's nice to look at. Now, when we resize it, see how it resizes as well? That's great. So if I make it really thin, it's dynamic. And if you look at it on your phone or tablet, it's going to do the same thing. That's one thing Sway has that PowerPoint does not. It's very structured with PowerPoint. It's much more formal. And as I mentioned, it's more like a classic work of art in comparison to Sway. Sway is going to be way more like a folk art style. And this is one example of that. Check this out. Looks like a stack of photos. Because it is. We can flip through these just like we would if we were holding them. That can be cool. Sometimes people like a gallery with thumbnails and they can click. We can set that up too. But sometimes having something like this, especially when it's on your phone, can feel more natural than trying to zoom in and see the thumbnails on your phone. On your computer, it's a different story, but those are considerations. We're not going to flip through all those, but that's an example of what's called a stack card. I'll show you how we can add those. But that's cool. I'm going to just X that out, and it's going to bring me back to Sway. Go back to 100% here. All right. If you want to follow along with me, I'd recommend to get inspired by a featured Sway and find the one called How to Sway. If you click that, as part of navigation on the top right, we have Share. Now, this provides us with a few different links, and you can create any one links. You can absolutely post this on your LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you'd like to. This can be something you share. It gives us you can get a visual link which has a thumbnail, and then you can actually share to Facebook, I guess we'll say Twitter, and LinkedIn. And you can also get an embed code. The embed code can be helpful if you want to embed it in SharePoint or in a different newsletter, in Word, something like that. Sometimes you'll see paste embed code, and that's what you can get from this way. So there are a few different ways that we can share these. And you can modify those. You can just copy and then send that off. So I'm going to click away. The gear, this gives us some settings that we'll talk about towards the end, but as far as navigation goes, usually the gear gives us settings. Here, this gives us settings for that particular Sway, not for the whole app. So you can have it loop, you can have it autoplay, and you can change the layout. There's default, horizontal, and there's also, explore this a little more, but it does bring us back to the main page, and we can also create a new one from here. The other stuff we'll do in just a few minutes. So here it is, How to Sway. If I scroll down, I'm going to scroll down with the wheel on my mouse. That's easier. You can also use the slider bar. So here it is. If you can't do this now, definitely check it out later. It does give us a lot of information. You can read through about each different thing and even try it out. So this is actually the end game, if you will. This is what everyone's going to see because there's the address and then / How to Sway. We can change things like layouts. We can switch our styles. But notice I can't really edit this from here. This is what it looks like. So we're in the Getting Inspired section. What you can do, if you find a Sway that you like, is click up on the 3 dots like this, and you can duplicate this Sway, or you can save it as a template. So if you're just going to do it again once, duplicating it is good. If you want to save it as a template, that might be your monthly newsletter. Now you have that as a Sway template, you can reuse it. Saves a lot of time. I'm going to choose duplicate this Sway. It tells me we're going to create a copy. It's going to show up on my Sways, and then you can rename it if you want. And if people uploaded audio or video, a guide for us. So How to Sway. I'm going to change this one so it's a little different. How to Sway today. And duplicate. Super easy to do. Now, while that's doing its thing, I want to share this. I'm going to just open a new tab here. And on the Microsoft website, Dan, I'm going to show it off. Dan, who's on today, I work with Dan, created a Sway that Microsoft showcased. So you should check it out. I'm actually going to place it in our... So I'm going to just send that to the entire audience.
I've already done that, John.
Oh, you did? I didn't even notice in the chat.
So,
All right, cool. Thanks, Dan. You're on it.
Yep.
So here it is. It talks a little bit about Dan. Dan makes awesome food. He's a foodie. And he did this really cool Sway. So maybe you've checked it out already. And that's cool. If you click, we can go through. Now, we have share. We have the gear. We can do things like this. And it tells us a little bit. If we open it in a new tab, that's going to give us more of the Sway experience. So there it is. We can navigate through. What Dan did was put photos of the steps, made it a little bit more exciting and really easy to read. This is often better than a printout or a PDF or a PowerPoint. Just seeing it like this, and you can scroll up and down. It's like getting a recipe online, but without having all those ads. You have to scroll down for a minute to get to the actual recipe. This is great. So this is one example of what you can do. So imagine anything you want to present with. Now, I'm going to click on the gear. From here, I can duplicate this way. What I had done was save as a template, and that's why we saw it in mine earlier. So two different things here. Save as template, duplicate this way. So I'm going to go back. It finished. We've successfully created a copy, and it's now on the My Sways page. You can edit it right away, or you can go to My Sways, and you'll see it listed. Now I'm going to choose Edit Now. Now we can really get into how these cards work. Check basic choices for formatting. So PowerPoint, we get tons of different formatting, choices, attributes, things we can apply. There are fewer in Sway, but it's way more dynamic. And sometimes being simpler makes it easier to read and also to create. But we can put in our title, How to Sway Today. Now, we have emphasize, which is pretty much bold. And then we also have accent, which is pretty much italicize. The thing is, when we play it, it's not just bold or italicized. It'll have some other formatting that's been applied consistently. So this is just applying a style. So there's the emphasize style and the accent style. So when we play this, you'll be able to see what that means. Now you can also, by the way, do the keyboard shortcuts, Control B for bold or Control I, and those work. This is kind of helping us out. You can see how helpful this is. Add text, images, videos, and more by clicking on the plus. We'll do that in just a moment. First, I'm going to click on the drop down. This is a single card. This is our title one. And if I do that, there are lots of things hidden inside of these cards and a lot of different choices you can make. So it's important to check those out. First, I want to consider my background. So this is just an image card. And if you click on that image, there's another details area within that. So keep track of each card visually. There's a slight separation between each card. So if you decide you wanted a card in between two, just place your mouse there and click, and you're going to see that plus. Just click on that. I'm going to click away though. So here we go. Details. That was the background. And from here, we can put captions in. We can use bullets, numbers, and we can even include links. So that could be to video or files, things like that. There's also a focus points area. So anytime you see an image, this one happens to be a background. This one happens to be logo. You can choose focus points. If you do that, that's one way that you can make some animations. Because you could say, well, the whole image is important. I need to see it on the screen no matter what. And it gives us a preview. So if it's widescreen like a tablet, or if it's like your phone, it's vertical, it will resize or not. You know, it'll kind of pick. So that's a consideration. To me, that's a big one because you really, this is a best practice, you really want to use the highest quality images you can get your hands on. If it's pixelated a little bit or is small, sometimes it will stretch it out and then it just doesn't look good. So really pay attention if you can either use stock images or you use them, the ones you already have that you took, or even using Copilot to create them. Make sure they're nice and sharp, because then we can do, uncheck this. We can click. So I'm going to just click there and maybe there. I could do several of them if I want, and then just click it again, it removes it. So what that does, you can move them, is we see that preview. So it will actually move when people are watching it to make sure that all those parts are seen. Sometimes you upload an image and since it is dynamic and it resizes, it'll cut off people's heads or it'll just be a weird composition. If you specify where you want those points of focus to be, like their heads, it'll adjust it properly here. That's great because certainly I've had that happen where formatting was not in Sway, but in other things. And it just looked like not professional. We want it to be nice. You don't have to be a designer. You just, that's important. That's important. Well, no, it's not. See how quickly we can do that. And you can always reset it. A little bit about focus points. And then if you don't like the card, you can always hit the trash can. So logo, if I click on that, this is our details area where we have the image, and you can do alt text here. It's called sway.png, and I can collapse those. So that's just the title. There's so many other types. I won't spend as much time on those, but I wanted to get the concepts of make sure you expand and collapse. So here's an example of our heading 1 card. So would you like to become a Sway expert? We've got some text. We've got a background placeholder. And then, of course, we have our plus. We can insert content. So how would we insert a card like this? Let's give it a try. Click. And right off, we see suggested cards. Heading 1, text, image, stack, and upload. If you don't want the suggested ones, you can go right to text. So we have a heading 1, heading 2, and then just plain text. For media, we have images, an embed, paste field, and upload from your device, and then group. I like this one if you have a lot of images. As I mentioned, sometimes people like the gallery or the grid, or sometimes automatic is good. It just puts it in a group and it resizes accordingly. That can be easy. But if you have several, grid or stack. If you want them to be full screen or larger, using slideshow is sometimes helpful because it's the whole image. And then this one is called comparison, and that lets us, you can kind of tell from this icon, slide this bar back and forth and then see a comparison of like old logo, new logo, something like that. So all you have to do is click, we're going to do heading 1. So this is heading 1 card. This is one we just created. So this is a first level heading. I'm going to click on background. And this opens up our search. And this is going to look online. You can also upload content from your device or from your OneDrive. You could, and it gives you some search attention to copyright, just for your awareness. If you click, it'll give you more information about I guess it won't. I can tell you the information. It's going to reach out to Creative Commons only unless you uncheck that, and then it's going to look across the whole internet. So if, as part of a Microsoft 365 subscriber, you get a Creative Commons license, a basic one, so you can use those images. If you uncheck that, just be careful. Make sure you're not violating any copyright stuff. But that, anytime you click on one of those, you can navigate around. So here, I'm going to just go into my OneDrive, and I can go and add any images that I might have. So as you can see, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this completed one is sometimes it takes a minute. And right now this is uploading this entire document. You could do PDFs, you could do forms, you can do images as well. There's also an insert button that's going to allow us to insert different content. So if you don't want it to be in your OneDrive, it could be something you have on another service. It could be Flickr, Bing Images, YouTube, pick it, but also from your device. If you do YouTube, a lot of companies have videos on YouTube. You can search. Before you put any of these on, make sure you watch them. It does just reach out to YouTube, so you want to just make sure it's appropriate. But that's how easy it is. You can search, you can upload from your OneDrive or from your device. But I'm going to kind of scroll down and show you different types. This is what a text card looks like. And that we can see is emphasized and accented. We get an additional choice here. This is heading. And if you click, and it kind of surprises you because it expands a lot and then you have a lot more to look at. But this is still that same card. We can move them as well. So if I realize, oh, I don't want it there, that one should be moved down here, I can do that. It's a drag and drop. So super intuitive. I'm going to scroll back up. Here we have a different section. We have a little bit about switching layouts. This is a heading 1 card, and this is grouping, but automatic. We might have images and text. Now this might seem a little bit weird because remember, we're in this storyline view. I know that because on the top left I see storyline. If I want to toggle back and forth, if you're like, well, I have no idea what the heading 1 looks like and what does that do? If you go to design, then you can see more of what the finished product looks like. So a lot of times when you're creating these, you'll switch between storyline and design. And now we can see the images. If I click, it's going to give me more information about it, obviously. This is a slideshow. And check this out. We've got the thumbnails on the bottom, so we can navigate through and even edit a little bit in this design area. But it just gives us a richer, closer experience to the end product. If you want to look at it in completion, you can click on play. That's up on the top right. And if you play, we can see the navigation on the bottom right, where I can see content that I added, but I can also navigate through and go right to this, for example, making an image stay put while users scroll. This one's kind of cool. If we scroll down, we can see that image stays there. Sometimes that can be hard when you have a sway. Things will disappear because you're scrolling. And this is what it looks like on the storyline. If you put a bunch of text in and you do an automatic group like that, all you have to do is then place an image card under it and it's going to work. So just a small trick like that makes it just cooler to look at. If you want to add an image, you can just literally click on the image and it'll resize it for you. Now, if you want to make text scroll, this kind of gives you a lot of different examples. Like this, it makes it muted in the background and then we can see that text scroll. Kind of the opposite of what we just saw. So I'm just scrolling through. We can see different types of grouping. We have automatic, we have the grid, that's all the same, like this. And then of course we saw the slideshow and we saw the stack earlier. If you want to change that, you can go back to edit. We have design and storyline. So all we have to do is go find it. You can see the different images added to this. They're all broken into different sections. I know it does seem overwhelming sometimes when we have one completed here, but this is the one that's going to give you, if you want to go check it out later, all the information. The image cards. If I want to add another image card, remember all I have to do is click, go to media, add the image, and then we can drag and drop an image here and then do captions, or we can go out and search for it. So there can be suggested ones, like comparison, and click and add. There we go. That's how easy that was. Now if I expand that, I can go in and say, well, we can make that a little bit bigger. Let's have some emphasis on moderate instead, or we can do the emphasis to intense, and that makes it much bigger. So you can't really tell when you're designing it. That's why the design tab is so important. See, that might be too big because it's pixely. So that means I could undo. There's an undo button. That one looks better. Videos. I think this is great because if you need people to watch orientation videos for new employees, leave the app to actually watch this YouTube video. That's one example. The emphasis you can make, and we saw this with bold or italics, you can easily just use the keyboard shortcut or click, and it's going to change the size and the style of that heading or whatever word it might be even. So as you can see, this is a lot of stuff. So what I'm going to do is kind of scroll down to the bottom. Here we go. We can see other examples. The same images with stack. Depends on your content. People can always make it bigger. Comparison. This is what I wanted to show you in actual how it really works. There's this little slider. So if you're describing something, a lot of times it's a reveal. Like you slide this, you'll see our old logo and here's our new branding. This is our new logo. Something like that. Slide shows a full screen style like that. Pretty cool. So back to storyline. Now, if people have questions, I know this is kind of a lot to look at, but we're really focusing on it does a lot for you. We have storyline for the more behind the scenes editing. Design gives us a better look at what it's going to look like. And then by hitting play, you can preview it that way. So if we do stack, for example, you can add your content. This can be images, but it could also be quotes. You could create flashcards. You can incorporate forms, quizzes, surveys. If you add content, you can add that text, image, or upload. You can also place links in here. Here's an example. You can see the hyperlink. That could be to a Microsoft form. That could be to another style that you might have. Whenever you get that share link, you can just paste that in here, and people are going to be able to interact with that. So maybe you don't love the design of this. So let's go check out the design section. And there's a small button, but a really important one, way on the top right, styles. If you click that, this is really where it's in for us. We have vertical, which it is now. You could switch it to horizontal, because then people, when they scroll, it's going to be like this. It depends on your content, depends on your audience. If they're going to be looking at it on their phones, maybe vertical is better. It just takes us a moment, and we'll go up and down. And you can also do slides. So maybe you don't like this font or color, you can pick any of these, and we actually get a preview. And some of these are pretty cool. Some of them not so much. So take some time to go through. If you still don't like any of them, you can choose customize, and you can do curated colors, or you can even type in your company colors. So if you know your RGB code or your hex code from your brand standards document, you can place that in here and it's going to match your company colors. It's really easy to do that. And then we have emphasis and text size. So these are some fine-tune options that you can go in, and it finds font choices that look good together. Usually one with serifs and one without a lot of times. But this saves you time, and if you don't know what looks good necessarily, it does it for you. And lastly, if you use this remix feature, what this does is completely overhauls your sway for you. And you can undo, by the way, if you don't love it. But check this out. I don't know, remix. So if you wanted to try that on a different one, not just this massive one, some of them, it depends. It looks like it might be in elementary school, so you may want something more professional, but I like the remix because it does give me ideas and shows me different ways to emphasize, and then I can switch it up. If you don't like it, undo is going to be the way to get out of there. Pretty cool. If I wanted to share this, I'm going to click on share. And this is where we can share with specific people or groups. This is where we can share with just people in our organization. It's going to be a little bit more private, or it can be anonymous, wide open, kind of like the one that Microsoft put up of Dan's. We have invite people to view or edit. So just like pretty much any other file in Microsoft 365. And then you can copy that. More options. Do you want to have a password? So if it's important company stuff, it's sensitive, you can create a password. And then do you want people to be able to share it or not? So you can get in and refine these a little bit, which I think is good. So if you reset those, it'll go back. That's going to be like starting fresh, and then you can redo it as far as permissions go. Pretty cool. I'm going to click up here, and maybe we saw duplicate. Maybe you want to save it as a template. If you click that, you can rename it. And so I am going to keep this one called How to Sway Today. Save it, and it creates a template for me. So by watching this and hopefully interacting with it, you can see there's a lot of different things that you can do. Often they're really buried in there. But all you have to do is imagine, I'd like to add an image. So if you hover over it, you can click the plus and it lets you add an image. If you want to redesign it, you can hit remix or try the design stuff. Even just have a seed of an idea and it will get you going. I love it. I'm going to dismiss that again. Now, for the final part here, what I'm going to do is go into Dan's. This is one that I created, so it was on the website. I went and I created a template from it. So now it has the basic layout, I can start editing this Sway. And here it is. Maybe I want to do a different recipe. I could go, I think it's just showing you how a lot of people are using images. This is how we could do like the stack group type. Now, if I go to design, this is already discouraging for some. All right, I'm going to dismiss that. And there we go. We can share to wrap it up here. We can duplicate and we can save as a template. If you want to export it, as I mentioned, Word, PDF, close. And of course, we can use any of those and create a PowerPoint from it. Pretty fancy. Hopefully this was helpful. Remember, this was an introduction. The way we could keep this under an hour was to use that how to sway. So hopefully this was helpful. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to say anything at the end. I know we've just got a couple minutes left. I talked a lot about this, but we're available.
There's a lot to unpack there for sure. But yeah, we made it in just under an hour. Thanks for that, John. There was a lot to go through for sure. Dan, thank you for the additional tips and the commentary that you had in the chat. A lot of good stuff in there as well. And thank you all for joining us today. As a reminder, the session was recorded and we'll be sharing the link as soon as the video is available, and it'll also be going to our website. If you aren't already, make sure that you follow VirtualIT on Facebook and LinkedIn. We've got new content coming soon that'll include some fun facts and tech tips and lots of new fun things. Also, we'll be doing our next webinar on Copilot for Word sometime in September. That's going to be the start of a new series that we're doing specific to Copilot for the various Office apps. So be on the lookout for that. We'll have the first invitation coming out in the next few weeks. And that's it. Thank you all again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.